like you're supposed to have it all together, but inside you're wondering how everyone else makes it look so easy? You're not alone. This is Southern Sisters, a place for women who want to grow without the guilt, find purpose in the messy middle, and be reminded that you were made for more. Make sure you stick around. We always save the bloopers for the end. Welcome to our episode of Southern Sisters. We're so glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited. We are doing another virtual recording of our episode today. We have a special guest with us, Andrea Simmons. Andrea! We are so excited. Before we jump into our icebreaker question and our topic today, we are talking this month all about order. And not in the kind of way that you think about order as like spring cleaning, but mainly just putting what is most important first in your life. So we thought it would be fantastic to have Andrea on to talk with us about food choices and having peace with your plate and body image, food without rules. Like these are all things that we think about and that we're surrounded by. And I love the conversations that I've had with her. So when she said she would join us, I thought, this is amazing, and I was so excited. Okay, so just a little bit of housekeeping. We have a website. You may not know this if you don't see it on social media. I feel like social media is so, like you see one thing and then you don't see anything from anybody else for weeks and weeks. Like it's so hit or miss as far as what you see. But if you go to our website, theSouthernSisterhood.com, you will be able to join our newsletter, and that is the best way to know what's going on. I sent our newsletter out for March, and there's a freebie that you get when you join. Every month we send out a freebie to just kind of help you in your journey with what we're talking about on the podcast for the month. So last month was love. This month is order. It's really, really great. So check that out if you have the chance. Also, if you're listening to this podcast, we would greatly appreciate it if you would like, share, subscribe, just to help get the word out, because we feel like we love to talk about family, faith, and fun, and sisterhood and community. And that's what we're building here. And that's why it's so important that we share it with the sisters in our life so that we can uplift and inspire each other and just help each other on this road that we're all walking together. So, all right. Now, we always start out with our icebreaker question. And our icebreaker question for today is, what is one food you were told was bad growing up that you still secretly love?
Okay, guys. So this one was really tough for me because I don't remember my family ever saying like, that's a bad food. Like, don't eat that. Like, I remember I have very fond memories of eating Cheetos with my aunt and like no-bake cookies that I still make sometimes when I think of her. But my mom did like go on some of these extreme diets. And so like she like went on like this cottage cheese diet and stuff like that. So I can't remember like any foods that anybody told me was off limits, but I just remember getting like early messaging about bodies, right? And how our bodies should look. So I know that's not really the question you asked, but that's my answer.
What about you, Court?
I'm going to try something. All right. Yeah. Answer on the count of 3. Okay. If there's one thing that you could eat that is like super bad, you're on your deathbed. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Kentucky Fried Chicken.
No. I could never eat Kentucky Fried Chicken on my deathbed. Blech.
That's what Dad always said. He said, I'm going to have a bucket of fried chicken and
a Big Mac.
And a Big Mac. You know, like that's what did you say?
French silk pie.
French silk pie? Oh, man. Yeah, that. I don't know if that's so bad for you, though. It's super wholesome.
Well, I just feel like any kind of sweets has a bad connotation with it. Like, I feel like my love language is cake. And I've always loved it. My mom says she craved it in the womb with me. Like, that's how so strong funny. The cake vibes are. So
isn't that fascinating? I think that's so cool. I craved pizza with jalapenos when I was expecting my first child. And he really likes spicy food. So I don't know. That's really interesting.
I wanted like a ton of meat when I was pregnant with Atticus, and he hates meat. So funny.
That is crazy.
Yeah. But no, I hear what you're saying, Megan. I feel like, we've done a really great job of demonizing sugar, right?
Well, for our Ask a Sister question today, we are going to ask the question, what is a dietitian? Andrea is here and she has studied nutrition and food and diets for years. What is a dietitian? What do you do?
I'm so glad you asked, even though I asked you to ask. So
It was
I
a
am
brilliant
a
move.
registered dietitian nutritionist. I am licensed in the state of Tennessee to practice medical nutrition therapy. And I think it's really important. A lot of people haven't really heard the word dietitian, but they've heard the word nutritionist, right? And the thing about the word nutritionist is it's not a protected title. So that means that anybody could wake up any day of the week and say, I'm a nutritionist today, right? They could go to school, they could maybe do a webinar, but they don't actually have to have any kind of credential to say that they're a nutritionist, right? Whereas I had to go to school, I had to take a lot of science classes, I got a master's degree, I had to take a board exam, I have to do continuing education, I have malpractice insurance. I mean, it's kind of boring. I could go on and on and on and on. But I have to do all of those things. And then I also have a code of ethics that I have to follow, which to me is a really huge deal, right? So when I work with a client or a patient, I am bound by that code of ethics that what I provide for you is going to be safe. There's going to be evidence behind it. And that's just not the case for, just anybody who's giving out advice. So, I think it's just really important to understand that when you're looking for nutrition information in a world that's so eager to tell us all their thoughts and feelings, just pay attention to what the source is, right?
I love that. All right. And so you're a dietitian. Where do you practice?
I work with Memphis Nutrition Group. And when we do work with clients, we come from a health at every size approach, or HAES, if you guys have heard of that before. And we also come from an intuitive eating approach, which I think we'll talk about in just a little bit. So if there's anything that comes up in this podcast, if people have questions or they would like to work with someone who works in that sort of mindset, then you can reach out to Memphis Nutrition Group. We're online. You can check out our website. You can look at, we have an about page with all the dietitians and kind of what their backgrounds and specialties are. And we are very much nutrition counseling focused, right? So if you come to see someone, it's going to be at least an hour and 15 minutes usually is the first appointment, where we're talking about you and what your goals are. So we meet you where you're at and we help you get to where you want to go.
Very good. I love that. I think that's great. Okay, so today we are talking about how do we find peace with our plate? And I think we wanted to kind of start this off. Like, why do you think so many women feel chaos or guilt around food and their body image today? What are the factors to this?
In my circles, I feel like people have gotten a lot better at not being like, mentioning if someone lost weight, if they did or if they didn't. Like, it's just this thing now where it's kind of like, don't comment on the way they look, like that's not who they are, like, I don't know. So it's like, do you tell somebody you look so beautiful today, or, or you're like, girl, I love the way your hair, like, do you give compliments, or do you just say, I don't know. I don't even know what you would say instead of a compliment. I love compliments, but I don't know if some people would get offended about them. I don't know. What do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I feel like we have gotten a lot better at not kind of noticing the superficial things whenever we're dealing one-on-one with our friends. But I do feel like there's an aspect of our world that is so visual because we're nearly surrounded by images all the time of the ideal or the aesthetic of what life should look like or how bodies should look, that it makes you super self-conscious about how you look because it might be different than the normal or what the normal is.
Yeah.
But we're surrounded by images.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Right. That's kind of one of the ways we process the world, right? So how we see things is how we experience them. And sometimes, you know, especially if you're in a scenario where maybe you don't know a lot about the people that you're around, what is there to comment on except what I see, right? You might be just trying to break the ice. I think, Courtney, I loved that question. Like, how do we even compliment each other in like a safe way? And honestly, what I think is we just need to get more comfortable about setting boundaries, right? Like, how amazing could it be if like I walked in and said, hey, I really love your shirt. And for you to be like, you know what? I'd really rather you not compliment me that way. Or if I like came to you and said, hey, how do I show you love? Like, I think you're awesome. And we all need some affirmation in some way, right? So how is it best and easiest for you to receive that? Because, you know, you might want somebody to notice you're wearing a new shirt or whatever and comment on, hey, doesn't this color look great with my skin tone? And maybe that is a totally okay way for you to get a compliment and you would love that. And maybe for someone else, and they feel more self-conscious in their body and they're struggling a little bit more connecting with their body, maybe it would just be really great, you know, if you're like, hey, I think you're funny, you know, or I've just noticed that you always have a smile and I really appreciate that. So I don't know. I think we could drive ourselves crazy trying to figure out the best way to do it the right way for everybody. So maybe we just, as women, get a little bit more comfortable being like, yep, I don't like that. Don't talk about my body that way. Or, hey, I really appreciate this and more of this would be awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why do you think that we feel guilt when it comes to food?
Okay, so I have some thoughts that have kind of been floating in my head about this. I think, and I don't want to, this is not a comprehensive list of reasons by any means, but a lot of women are in charge of nourishing people. Like, whether we're taking care of aging parents or extended family members or children, or even just a romantic partner, maybe we're the cook for roommates, like whatever our life looks like, there are a lot of women in the world who it's their job to like provide nourishment for other bodies and their bodies, right? And I think that's a lot of pressure, especially when we're receiving all of this messaging about what bodies are supposed to look like. And maybe my value is tied with what my body looks like, or what the people I'm nourishing, what their bodies look like. Maybe I'm getting messaging about good and bad foods, you know, like, oh, I have to throw away all this stuff that I have in my cabinet because now I found out that it's a bad thing and that I shouldn't do it. Or sometimes we're taking care of conditions like, oh, I'm taking care of a loved one who has diabetes, or I'm taking care of a loved one with a food allergy. And when you combine all of that stuff, of course it's going to be hard. Like, holy crud, that's a monumental task to take on. And we don't have really good, clear messaging about, hey, this is the right way to do it. Like, this is where you go to get the right information, right? We can, in any day of the week, log into any kind of social media and get tons of messaging about all these opinions and ideas, but there's not really like a really great guidepost of, yeah, no, but this is the right way. And so it's just really, really hard and frustrating when you're in charge of something that is so integral to life and well-being, and there's not like a manual on how to do it the right way, right?
And I think that kind of goes into how everybody's so different, right? So there isn't a way, really, because everyone's bodies are made up so differently, right?
Yeah. I like to give the example. So if we talk about an egg, I wish I was holding one. Obviously, I'm a visual person. But if we had an egg and I showed you an egg, I'd be like, this egg is amazing. If you think about it, there's everything inside that egg for new life. Everything that a new life needs to grow is inside that egg. So I could go and say, hey, everyone should eat eggs. They're so good for you. There's everything you need to grow a new life. Unless you're my daughter who's allergic to eggs, and then she'll die. Right? And so, like,
I don't mean to laugh, but I was thrown by that.
Right?
That is very serious. Not funny, but like, whoa. Yes.
Right. But that's what I mean. Like, if I sat here and said, okay, Megan and Courtney, get out a piece of paper, I'm going to tell you how to eat, it would be completely inauthentic because there's no food. Even though that egg sounds like it's a good package, not for everybody. Like, somebody that could be a really hurtful thing, right?
Yeah.
So it is really individual. Yeah.
Okay. So what is intuitive eating? Speaking of
intuitive eating. Oh, I do have a visual for this one. Intuitive eating.
We're also on a...
Is it going to be backwards?
No.
So
Okay.
people are also listening too.
Yes. So I'm holding up a book now. Intuitive eating is a set of 10 principles, and they were I don't want to use the word created, because they're principles that these dietitians noticed and grouped together and called intuitive eating, right? But the dietitians are Evelyn Tribole and Elise Risch. I don't get any kind of like kickbacks or anything for talking about them, but they do have a website, and you can go to it and check out like the 10 principles. And essentially what I love is their story of, they were operating dietitians, like they'd get referrals from physicians and different people to do weight loss, right? And so they'd have these patients come in, or these clients come in, and they would say, hey, here are some things you can do to lose weight. And then they were noticing that it would like work, and the clients would move on, and they would no longer need to work with them. And then a year or two later, they'd get calls back, and they had all these people saying, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's not working anymore, or I just can't stick with this anymore, and I'm gaining the weight back, or the weight is back. And so after having that experience, they started to look at research. And the reality is when you look at research about weight loss, we don't know how to help people lose weight. Like, the science says that we suck at it, because I can tell you something that might work for a short term, but the majority of the population will gain weight back in a year to 2 years. Now, there are a lot of factors that go into that, right? So our bodies naturally want to live in a certain weight range, right? And there's fluctuation, especially in women's bodies, right? Like, different times of the month, I'm just going to be in a little bit of a different space. But our bodies kind of gravitate towards that weight range. And there are some people who live in really thin framed bodies, and then there's some people who naturally inhabit larger bodies, right? And so, saying that, there's going to be people that are like, look at how amazing, like, I lost all this weight and I've kept it off, or whatever. And so that happens sometimes. But literally, the research says, for the majority of us, if we try to force our bodies into a shape that our bodies don't naturally want to live in, we're not going to be successful. Like, we're not going to stay there. And so instead, how about we get back to this intuitive inner wisdom that our bodies have, and learn to trust our bodies, and learn to just sort of let go of the dieting culture, which is hard because we live in it, right? I heard someone call it soup recently. We're floating in this soup of diet culture all the time. So trying to sort of take ourselves out of that soup, and then listen to our internal cues and honor our bodies by sort of following the directions that our bodies are offering to us. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So yeah, so they have this, like I said, it's 10 principles, and they walk you through the process. The first one is rejecting the diet culture. Second one is honoring your hunger, right? And that's getting back in tune with your body, making peace with food. This one's really cool because it talks about the different voices that we hear in our heads. I'm not saying we all have voices, but when you eat a food, there's something, a message your brain is sending you about that food, right? If I take a bite of silk pie, the message I'm getting from my brain is going to be very different than if I'm biting into an apple, right? Yep. And so learning how to navigate those different voices that are talking to us, and recognizing the ones we want to keep, and learning how to talk back to the ones that we are like, yeah, no thanks, I don't want that, right?
Is that what they're talking about whenever they talk about food noise? Have you heard that?
So yeah. I think it's a similar concept.
Being hungry and having cravings is food noise.
I think food noise is a really, really broad concept too, because any messaging we get around food can be noise, right? So like, when I'm trying to decide what I'm going to eat at the grocery store, I could be looking at 2 different boxes of macaroni and cheese, and I could have food noise in my head about which one I should pick, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, but when we're thinking about the voices inside our head, they're telling us. I said that was in Make Peace with Food. Actually, that's in the 4th principle, and it's challenging the food police. Because that voice is going to be like kind of beating us up if we pick food that we think is bad for us, right? Or if we've had some sort of messaging taught to us about certain foods. And then we also have like the rebel in our head that I'm like, screw this. I already ruined this day. I'm just going to eat all the French fries anyways, right? Or like, we all have these voices, and they talk to us.
Mine is like, I deserve this. I worked so hard. Like, that's my go-to rationalization of like, when I feel bad about something, I'm like, I deserve this.
Well, and then there's like a voice that's like a nurturer voice, right? It's like, sometimes it's like, hey, honey, you had a hard day. And if, you know, if this is going to help you like process that hard day, okay.
Like, life is so hard.
Yeah.
So much.
How many different ways? How many different ways could we say you deserve this?
Yeah.
Like the hype girl, the also sad one, like feeling sorry for yourself. The one that's
yes.
Well, and it's interesting that we're talking about this because another one of the principles is coping with your emotions with kindness, right? And that plays into how we relate to food and how we relate to our bodies. So, which other ones did I miss? The satisfaction factor. That is a really fun one because sometimes we pick food and we don't actually take time to like really enjoy our food. But like, have you ever seen someone like put something in their mouth and then they just like, you know, like
the savor.
Yeah. And they sit down when they eat it. I'm like, and they put their fork down in between all this. Like, what?
Like,
who got time for that? I ain't got time for that. Shoot.
I remember seeing someone like eat, I think it was ice cream or like a cake or something. And they like made a noise and they were like their face. And I was kind of embarrassed to watch, but I was like, I think I want to experience food that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You that cake need to get a room. That's what it needs to happen right now. So.
You're like, they're having a ton of fun. Like, wow, to feel that kind of satisfaction would be amazing from that bite of food. And then there's feel your fullness, respect your body, cope with your emotions with kindness, movement and gentle movement. I feel like whenever I mention movement to someone, they're like, oh, I don't want to join a gym. I'm like, yeah, there's lots and lots of ways to move that you don't ever have to look at or go to a gym, right? And then the very last principle in intuitive eating talks about gentle nutrition. And that is, it's really important. They focus on actually moving through those principles in order, because when you start to try to pull things out of order, it can actually feed into some of the disorder that we have around food, right? So like if I would just want to jump into, I'm going to fill my fullness, but I haven't really made a commitment to start rejecting the diet mentality stuff, then I'm still worried about, this has got calories in it. And how many calories does this have, right? And so it's kind of this gentle process to really get ourselves back in touch with what our bodies were intended to do. Because if you look at a toddler, they got no fear. They're going to eat what they want when they want. It might be 3 bites now, which kind of can drive parents crazy, right? My toddler grazes all day long. Yeah, they know, they're listening to their bodies. They're taking in exactly what they need. And then at some point we start telling ourselves stories and having these thoughts, and those thoughts pull us away from that intuitiveness.
So are you saying grazing is good for children because they're listening to their bodies? And like this 3 meals a day thing is so cultural. Like it's not what our bodies actually need. You know, they say like several small meals a day, or, you know, like is better to keep your metabolism up. Like I am only 35 years old, and I could probably count on 2 hands at least the amount of diets that I have tried and been on, and the amount of like programs that I've tried, and the amount of like, it's insane. Like, I think that we talked in the last episode about just like pivoting when things aren't working and that being okay, and just trying different things that are okay for your body. And like what's doable for me right now in this season is so different than whenever I had all my kids were little and they were at home, or whenever I was single and a teenager. You know, what I could do for my body. I just feel like different stages call for different protocols.
Ooh, good word. Yeah.
Thanks.
I love that you shared that, because I think when we do that sort of thing and we do a diet, right, and then maybe we get a little success from the diet, and then life changes or something happens, and then we don't feel like we're getting that success anymore, what is the first thing we do?
We feel shame.
Yeah. I'm broken. Like, what's wrong with me, right?
I'm such a failure.
Right?
It doesn't work for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like I couldn't do it. Like, I'm the one that's broken, which is fascinating, because if any of us took our car into a mechanic and said, hey, the brakes don't work, and the mechanic called and said, your car's ready, and we went and picked it up and the brakes still didn't work, would we assume it was the car's fault?
No.
No, the mechanic didn't do what I asked him to do. He didn't fix the car. So instead of our brains like blaming the diet and saying, oh, that diet didn't work. It's not my fault. It's that the diet didn't work. We all immediately are like, oh, it's me, right? And I think part of that is because we received this messaging. We saw someone on Instagram who lost 200 pounds. So obviously it works, but not for me, right?
Yes.
But we all know Instagram's not real.
Why have I not ever thought about this like this before? Like sitting here thinking, I'm like, wait, it wasn't me that was broken. It was the diet that was broken. Right?
It stopped working because of whatever.
That is that so liberating? Just to be like, oh wait, I'm not broken. The diet didn't work.
Yeah. So I feel like after my middle child was born, I had a lot of trouble with my hormones. And so nothing quite worked right as far as like dieting and nutrition and movement like I had before. And it got so frustrating that I just kind of put my head in the sand and decided that I wasn't going to deal with it anymore. And that has its own different set of problems, but it was because I felt broken. And instead of addressing like how I can feel better and how I could heal, it's just been in the last probably 18 months that I've been like consciously trying to tell myself, you're not broken. You are perfectly made. Like, and it's not that I feel like I don't feel like I'm down on myself as far as how I look. I love the way I look. I think that I am a beautiful person. I just feel like I know that it should be a little bit different. It should look a little different. I feel like sometimes people look and say, you don't look as healthy. You know what I mean? Like,
maybe not it should look, but like you want it to. Like you do it for you, you know, like you want to, like I just want to, you know, I remember I've been almost 300 pounds and I, you know, would sit in an airplane and have to get the seatbelt extender. And I'm like, I just want to sit in a seat on an airplane and not have to use the seatbelt extender. Like just because I didn't like it. Like I didn't like having to get it. And that's fine if someone else does it, you know, and is fine with it. But I was like, I don't want to have special, you know, accommodations because of, you know, how big or small I am. You know, and I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it was just something that I was like, that's a good goal. That was kind of an eye opener for me, but it's not about like what you should look like or what you shouldn't look like. I love that you said that, Andrea, about how you just, what is it called? The HAES? What does that stand for again?
Health at every size.
Health at every size. I have seen so much more larger body commercials and stuff that just are normalizing people looking different. And it makes me so happy because we're not set on a certain picture, you know, because we're all different. Yeah. I've walked with Megan, like walked with you on your journey of health and just watched you, you know, try and try and try. And you are one of the hardest working people to be healthy that I know in my whole life. And it's like someone that is, you know, whatever size, that's smaller, they do nothing. They eat horrible. You know, like they don't have to, their metabolism is naturally super high or something. I don't know, but like I don't think that living in a larger body means that you're unhealthy because you're one of the most healthy people that I know. You know, like I hate it that there's this stigma around like you're not healthy because you're larger, you know, living in a larger body. Ooh, this is so dicey to talk about, isn't it? Golly. I'm like over analyzing every single thing I'm saying. I'm like, was that offensive? Was that offensive? I'm cheering people on, but am I being offensive? You know, it's so crazy. Gosh.
Well, I feel like the point is that we need to start having conversations like this, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and the soup that I'm talking about us living in, it can just be like, you know, messaging we're getting from like social media or magazines or whatever, but it also is having to ask for an extender. It also is having judgments about your body because of how you look, right? Because I can guarantee that there are people who live in very thin framed bodies who are very, very sick. And just because they live in that thin frame body does not somehow mean that they have better cholesterol or whatever. But oftentimes we have experiences where if you are in a larger body, people make assumptions, right? Or we do this thing where we try to jump inside other people's heads and think, oh, what are they thinking about me? And so even if people aren't actively saying things, you're like, oh, what are they going to think about me because of this? And then you're just deep in that soup, right?
Yeah. And I know people insecure about being too small, you know, like feeling like they're too thin, and people judge them, and they have such a different experience than I do. But it just amazes me that there's a trial for every size.
Trial for every body type.
Yes. There's something.
Yeah. Body image is an issue for so many of us, regardless of what our bodies look like, right? It's not easier. The grass always looks greener, but then when you get in the yard, they're looking at their weeds just like we are, right? Like, that's always true. Courtney had asked, is it normal for like little people to graze? And it is. That doesn't mean that as we get older that we don't change those patterns, right? Like as adults, it would actually be probably hard for us to graze, but and that is another thing I feel like you kind of have to trust your body to tell you, hey, I'm hungry. And maybe eating 3 meals a day is great for your body. Maybe you need snacks in between. But the thing about small kids is that their stomachs are pretty small and their attention spans are pretty small. But they're really good at also listening to their bodies and trusting their bodies and being like, I'm hungry now though, which is can kind of drive you crazy when you're like, yeah, but I have to feed you and I need to put food away so that, you know, it's not sitting on the table 24/7, but it is normal for them to graze.
Cool. Thank you.
I love
Good to
it.
know. So do you just have stuff out, like, or just let them ask you and you get them stuff?
I feel like okay, so this is actually something I was going to mention later, but I'm going to go ahead and say, so there is the Ellen Satter Institute, and it's Ellen, ELLYN, satterinstitute.org. It talks about the division of responsibility in feeding. And I wanted to offer that to mamas or people who are responsible for nourishing other people, because I feel like it's so liberating. I kind of want to add a disclaimer that we can take any amazing tool and use it to beat ourselves, right? I think our bodies are a perfect example. We have these amazing bodies that are these incredible tools, and we like can turn them into weapons and weaponize them. And so if anything that I offer feels heavy, I would say then that's not a tool that you need to use, right? And if it feels liberating or helpful, awesome. I would totally recommend you to check it out and to look more into it. So that being said, Ellen Satter Institute talks about the division of responsibility in feeding. Parents are responsible for 3 things. They decide what to offer for food, they decide when to offer it, and where it will be offered. So those are the 3 jobs as you as a parent. Courtney, you get to decide what you feed your kids, when you feed them, and where it will be given to them. And their decision is whether or not they're going to eat it and how much they're going to eat. So you decide when I'm going to put it out, you know, and if you're like, if they come to you, you don't have to drop everything you're doing to put the food out. You just have decided, hey, and having sort of a routine, you know, is helpful, because then usually they won't, you know, be banging on your door as much if they know, oh, this is what the routine is. But, but yeah, you get to decide how that works and what that looks like for your family. And you are the best qualified to decide that, because you know when they typically are more like, I'm starving. Like for my boys, we would go on picnics when they were small. And then we'd go to get in the car. Like literally we had just gone on a picnic. We ate food, got in the car, and they'd say, when's lunch? I'm starving. Something about being outside made them ravenous. So I learned that even if I was going to take them on a picnic, I better have second lunch in the car, because as soon as we got in, they were going to forget that they had first lunch, right?
Especially a bunch of teenage boys. I can't even imagine. Jeez.
That was when they were little. I mean, now,
now it's like 3rd dinner, 4th dinner.
Gosh.
I'm really sure that when Tolkien created hobbits, he like knew some children that were eating. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so what are some small practical ways women can begin listening to their bodies instead of following rigid food rules? What do you suggest, Andrea? Like, where do you start? Where's the starting point? Go pee?
Go pee. I'm serious. Like how many times did you guys hold it? I'm serious. Courtney, how many times have you held it so that you could take care of your twins? I can't even count. A lot, right?
So, I always have to pee because I got this in my hand all the time. So I'm constantly peeing. Yeah.
Right? So I think really when you're trying to tune back in with your body, it can be a delicate process. Sometimes trauma lives inside of our bodies, right? And if we have a really hard time being in our bodies because of our body image or because of traumatic experiences we've had, then I would say get help and normalize asking for help. Like, yes, just get support to do that. But then an easier way than doing it coming from a food standpoint, because food is such a charged topic, is just to pay attention when your body has a need, right? And if you happen to be in the grocery store with a cart full of food and toddlers and you're like, okay, this is not convenient for me to pee right now, still check in and say, hey, body, I hear you. You're telling me that you have a need. And I'm going to honor that need as soon as I am able to do it. And then if you are able to do it, don't put it off. Don't say, well, I'll do it in a few minutes. Like, make an effort to just say, hey, body, I hear you and I love you and I'm going to do this thing that you need right now. Right? And I think that's just a really great way to just get back in tune with being in touch with your body, noticing, hey, I have to pee, or, oh, I yawned. Am I tired? Like, what is my body telling me when I yawned just now, you know? And I'm not even saying you have to really do anything, but notice those things. And then try to build in where I'm actually responding to those things, right? And then if you want to get really next level, then I think you start building in anticipating those things, right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I'm about to go to the grocery store. I don't need to pee right now. But instead of being focused on my kid's shoes, I'm going to stop and say, I'm going to take care of myself and go pee before I go to the grocery store, because that's a need that I might have when I get there, right? And all of those skills translate to food. But it's just so much easier to do it around other pieces before we start adding that charged food piece in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. That makes 100% sense. And it's funny. So I joined a gym, right, like Black Friday, and I have come to find that my body doesn't need it. Like, my body feels better walking outside than being at the gym. But what my body loves about the gym is sitting in the sauna. And having the quiet and like 15 minutes. So I will drive 10 minutes there and back just to have 15 minutes to sit in the sauna, because my body's like, you need that. That's good for you. It helps you have peace. It helps you get like your system unclogged, because I feel like I struggle a lot with lymphatic problems. And so it's been amazing to me to kind of try and pay attention to that. And like when I have a couple of days where it's pretty high stress, then I will think to myself, like, it's almost like my body's like, yeah, but when did you do this last? Like, when did you take this peaceful time to take care of yourself? And it matters.
I love that you notice that that's what your body needs. And I love that you're able to make what sounds like you felt like was a little bit of a sacrifice, right? Like, I'm driving 10 minutes there and 10 minutes back to have this 15 minutes, but I love my body enough that I'm going to do it. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's been really great. Okay. So how can mothers model healthy body image and food relationships for their children? Because I feel like this is a generational thing. Like, I feel like our diet culture is a lot because of what we saw growing up. Like, we had so many diets surrounding us. Hi, Mom. I love you. Thanks for listening.
Well, our moms struggled with body image the same way we struggle with body image, right? Like, our moms did the best that they could in a world that was telling them that they're supposed to look a certain way, and it was hard. And so we're dealing with the same stuff. And we have, I think, more ways that the media is telling us we should be different, maybe, but we're getting the same messaging that they got, and they did the best that they could. And so that's the first thing I would say to every mom listening. You are doing an amazing job. Like, you're incredible. You are doing hard work. You are nurturing other human beings. And that is tough, and it's supposed to be, right? But I think what we can and what we need to do as moms is normalize that we don't know all the answers and we need help. And so what I would say is, like, be honest with your kids and let them see you ask for help, right? You don't have to know the answers. you don't have to get it all right. But if your kids know, hey, actually, mom doesn't know how to do this, and that's okay. Because I had a friend of mine, I was talking to her. She was telling me she had this amazing mom that was like, did all these just over the top like things for her as she was growing up and was always at all of her stuff. And she was sharing with me like how amazing her mom was and how she wasn't a good mom because she was comparing what she could do to what her mom could do. And she was not able to do that for her kids. And so I am not mad at her mom for being an amazing mom. Awesome. Great. This mom doesn't operate that way. We can't use that as our comparison standard, right? And what that conversation really gave me was a desire for my kids to understand that I'm not amazing. I get 50% of the stuff I like knock out of the park, and 50% of the stuff I totally stink at. And that's kind of what it means to be a human. And I want to normalize for them that I don't know all the answers. And because I don't want them to grow up thinking they have to know all the answers. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, model being willing to ask for help, like find resources. I think therapy should be normalized, just like going to the dentist, going to the doctor. You go to get your checkup, you go see your therapist. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, you know? And that might not be the way that, you know, you need help, but therapists that are trained in body image and things like that can be helpful if that's something you're struggling with. Talk to a dietitian if you're like, I don't know how to feed my family, especially if there's particular concerns like, you know, oh, we just got an allergy diagnosis. I don't know what to do. Okay. You don't have to figure it out. There are people, that's my job. Like, that's what I do. Right. So why like try to like sift through all the stuff yourself? Just let me do that for you. And then you can just have the peace of mind of knowing that like, okay, like I didn't have to do that. I outsourced that piece because there's plenty of other things for you to do as a mom. Right. Check out the Ellen Satter Institute if that is something that feels like would give you some peace. It's just to be like, hey, this is what my responsibility is in feeding, and this is what my kid's responsibility is, and I need to stay out of my kid's lane, right? I need to let my kids eat, and I'll just provide food for them.
I was just thinking about the kids that, like, is there a point where you don't let your kids just eat whatever they want all the time? You know? Like, if they're not listening to their bodies, but they're actually, like, addicted to sugar, or if they're struggling with, you know, using it as a coping mechanism, like, how do you discern the difference between the two?
That is such a great question. I've actually been looking at a lot of information around food addiction right now. And there's not a lot of great evidence. I want to be clear, there's not a lot of great evidence that is actually a thing, right? Food tastes really good. Some foods we want to eat a lot more of. But I haven't seen any research yet that shows that it's actually, you can be addicted to food, right? A lot of the behaviors that we see happen around food, I think have to do with this like restrict cycle that we go through. And so a lot of times, you know, if I say, hey, okay guys, none of us are going to eat any sugar for the next 30 days. Guess where your brain's going to immediately go?
Cake.
Sugar. All the sugar. I want all of it. Right?
Especially when it's over. When the 30 days are up, bam.
We're like, here we go. Right? Or if you have one day where you like eat like one little piece of sugar, then what could happen is, well, I ruined this day anyways. I'm going to eat all the sugar I can get right now, and then I'll get back on the wagon tomorrow. Right? So there's a lot of psychology around that restriction that makes us feel like I can't get enough of this thing. Right? If you are concerned about like what your kids are eating or how they're eating, I think that's a great point of conversation to have as a family. Be like, hey, I've really noticed that lately, like all you want to eat is, you know, popsicles and Doritos. Like, what's up with that? Like, why do you think that's all you want today? You know? And I don't think that means you have to take away popsicles and Doritos, but maybe you're like, what can we add? Because popsicles and Doritos, you know, I know you're going to soccer practice later, and I know that popsicles and Doritos, you're not going to feel great playing your sport or going out, hanging out, running around with your friends on just popsicles and Doritos. So what if we add some of this other stuff too? Right? Because what the science says is if we sort of like have that on the table with all the other foods, and kids know that they could get it all of the time, they're very similar to adults a lot, is that if I don't feel like I'm restricting, if I feel like I have the option of choosing that thing, then I'd feel more comfortable doing this other thing too. Does that make sense?
And
yeah,
sometimes
I've noticed that like the more you have of something like available, the less exciting it is sometimes for kids. You know, like I know that growing up, like there was this family that they were like no sugar, you know, for any of the kids, and then they found a bowl of cookie dough underneath their kid's bed. And like they would just do this crazy stuff. And I'll never forget being like, I don't want to, you know, make it so it's super forbidden and exciting, because it's the first thing I did when I was growing up was do the forbidden that was exciting because it was forbidden. So
yeah.
well, and I think I really like this conversation because I feel like it's all about balance. It's like listening to yourself, finding what works for you, and not paying attention to what it looks like to the rest of the world.
I love how you said it's like going pee, because it's like, um, I don't think about eating like I do having to go to the bathroom. You know, like that is my body giving me a signal that it needs something. And I know the consequences of not doing it are terrible. So if you sneeze, it's all over, you know, like there's just too much at stake.
Right?
So it's like, you know, I haven't thought about it, food in that way, where it's like your hunger. Like, do I know what hunger feels like? I don't know. I'll have to really think about it and notice things in my body around food. Like my body really wants some protein, or my body really like, what is it, you know, what are these cues my body's giving me to tell me what I'm wanting? Because everybody's body's different.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's like those voices I was talking about earlier. So like noticing your hunger, you can have different kinds of hunger too. Like sometimes we have physical, like I'm hungry, I need fuel for my body. And sometimes we have emotional hunger, right? Sometimes we have taste hunger. Like, hey, I just know that's going to be really delicious and I just want some of that. And that's why I said maybe approaching it from a body system that's sort of easier for us just to acknowledge, yep, that's a thing I have to do. Or like Courtney said, when I sneeze, it's all over, right? Because when we start looking at it in the food perspective, we start bringing in some voices and judging ourselves. Like, oh, I just ate a sandwich a few minutes ago. I shouldn't be hungry right now. But really what we're trying to do is just tune back into what is just the base message my body is sending me, right? And if I am hungry, it's intuitive eating really is building that trust back in my body where I'm like, oh, I hear you, body. You're hungry right now. And I'm going to honor that hunger. Even if I just ate a sandwich an hour ago, I'm not going to have all those voices coming and telling me why I shouldn't eat more right now, because you're telling me something. Like, you know, maybe I'm having a busier day. Maybe I needed less energy yesterday, but now I need more today. Or maybe it's telling me that I'm sad, and maybe food is a way that I have used to like cope with my sadness. And maybe I just need to listen to my body and say, oh, you don't really want a whole bag of Oreos right now. What you need is a hug, right? And maybe I'll eat some Oreos too. And I'm not mad at you for doing that, but is that really what's going to satisfy that hunger? Right?
Yeah. That's great. I think I've just noticed, like, especially my daughter being a teenager, like they're watching us all the time. They're watching the choices we make. They're watching the way we talk to ourselves. They're watching us try on outfits and try on 7 outfits. And, you know, they're just watching everything. And I want my kids, especially having 4 girls, like, I want them to feel comfortable in their own skin. And I want them to be proud of who they are, not what they look like. You know, like, I don't want it to be there is some vanity in the world, and people can be really hyper focused on the way they look. And if that is a mom, then their kids are gonna, you know, follow suit. And I've seen it. And so if a mom has eating, you know, issues and disorders and things like that, and they don't get help, like you said, like it's gonna trickle down to the kids. So it's like that's even more important to get help for. Like, get help for yourself, because you don't want to continue that, you know, generations from now. Like, be the link that stops the not getting help for whatever you need and trying to be your own expert.
Well, and I think too that It's interesting how your own insecurities are what you look at your kids, and when you see those things happening, it's really important that you break the cycle of that. Like I've noticed with my kids in particular, one thing that I'm hyper aware of because of who I am and the experiences I've had is that sometimes you just see bodies changing. And when that happens, it's like, okay, what do we need to look at the patterns and habits we have in our life. And how is this maybe impacting the way that our body is changing right now? Now, some of it is puberty and hormones because we have a lot of teenagers around here. This is important. We don't put our head in the sand, but we pay attention and make sure that we're looking for cues with the people that we are trying to nourish, like, because everyone's going to need something different. With my younger kids, it's like, okay, let's find something you love that helps you move. Let's find, make sure that we have different options available for different food choices. I don't know. It's a lot to think about and it's a lot to manage, but I think that being intuitive about all of it is part of the key with having it be balanced and having it be something that you can learn and grow from together.
Absolutely. Well, and I think look for credible sources for how your kid probably will eat based on their age, right? So we've talked about toddlers are probably going to be grazers. Babies are also really, really great at deciding when they're hungry and when they're not hungry. Right before puberty, kids typically put on weight. They need extra weight to be able to do everything that their body is going to do through puberty. And then teenagers, so the fastest growing humans on the planet are infants, right? Those little babies, they just become new people almost every week, it seems like. Second fastest growing people on the planet are teenagers. They need just a ton of calories. And I hear moms say, oh, he just eats all the time. And I'm like, yep, he's supposed to. Like, that's what he's doing right now. That's what his body needs him to do, right? He ate all dozen eggs. I'm not worried about it. Like, that's great. So you just realize that, yes, there's in our lives, there's sort of these natural ebbs and flows, and your kids' bodies are going to change, and that is okay. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong if they're starting to pack on some weight. Probably means you're about to hit puberty, and good luck, mama. And that's fine. And I think also motherhood has been a really amazing tool for me to work on my own body image, because I had this really wise therapist actually told me to pull out some pictures of me as a kid and to look at those pictures and to see how beautiful that child was, right? And so I don't know, there's something that not necessarily every mom has this, but for me it was really powerful because I am so protective of like the kids in my life. Like I will go mama bear so quickly. And when I pulled out those pictures of younger me and I looked at them, I immediately thought of that mama bear instinct, and I wanted to protect that little girl, and I wanted her to know that she was beautiful and I loved her. And like, I think that could be a practice that I would just love everybody to pull out a little picture of yourself when you were younger, maybe the most awkward, uncomfortable picture you can imagine. And then just go give it some love. You know what I mean? Just go be like, oh girl, I don't love your hair choice, and that shirt, I'm so glad we burned it, but I love you so much, and I know you thought you looked rocking in it, and I'm so proud of you, right? And like, just any little thing like that where you can do to show yourself some love, even if you can't look in the mirror today and do it, like, go back to that past you and think about all the amazing things that past you did so that you can be present you today, and try to give her some love for that. And like, see if that starts to help you find things that come up that you can work on to like start to heal that relationship with yourself.
I think that's beautiful. All right. So our scripture for this time, we're in 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20. And it says, know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. So I love, Andrea, that you shared that reflection question for this week is, go find a picture of your younger self and just tell that younger self how loved they are and that they're still inside, and protect them and that soul with the mama bear energy that we all have, because that is so powerful. And it's something that I think we all just need to remember, because when it comes to body image and when it comes to food, it can be something that's so sensitive. Like, we're surrounded by booby traps, really. Like, we feel like we're surrounded by traps and we're walking through this. That's why grace is so important. That's why being gentle with yourself is so important, because if you're not careful, then you're going to have trauma with yourself through this process, and that is not God's way. That's not what he wants for his daughters. He wants us to be able to stand up and do what we're meant to do, and that means nurture. That means step into these roles that we have to heal communities and to help families, and all of these things are so important, and these wonderful bodies that we have are the way that we're going to do it. So we got to take care of them, love them, give them grace, and it's all super important.
I'm so glad you spoke with us today, Andrea. Thank you so much for being here with us. We love you.
Thank you guys so much for inviting me. I'm just really glad that I got to be a part of this with you.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for being here with us. We're so grateful for you and all of the things that we've talked about. We will have links in the show notes for Andrea's clinic that she works at, as well as the different websites that she talked about. So you can find that if you want to do more research on your own, or if you want to give her a call. I'm sure she would love to hear from you and work with you. All right.
Post your most awkward child picture, please. We would love to see it.
Yes. Post
so
your
we can give you some love.
For real. Yes, definitely.
We'll do
I
ours.
love that.
Are we going to do that, Courtney?
We'll do ours. Yeah. Lindsay will be first. She has the best one.
All right. That sounds amazing. Okay. So until next time,
keep striving, and we'll see y'all soon.
Woo! Now it's time for the bloopers.
Yeah.
I wanted to circle back to something.
Hold on one second. Brooklyn, you need to go. I'll be out in a second. I'm trying to record something.
Hold on 1 second. McKay!
Should I yell at one of my kids too?
Yeah, do it.
Someone was up there playing a musical instrument.
The joy of being a mom and trying to do something, right?
No instrument. Somebody is. Yeah, you were. Don't. Give me 30 more minutes. Okay, bye.
Hope it's not 30 more minutes. I gotta get out of here. Bye.
I know. Okay, sorry. But
10.
Andrea, you said you wanted to circle back around to something else.
Yeah.
Wait,
And
where's your camera go, Andrea?
Yeah, what happened?
That was crazy.
Okay.
I think there was like a message that popped about hand gestures, so I wonder if it thought I was like throwing gang signs or something. But anyway, no more gang signs. Sorry, guys.
No gang signs.
But yeah,